today's panel discussion is It's Now or Never to Build Sustainable Environmental Enterprises. I'd like to call upon the stage Shri CM Patil ji, CEO of Krishi Kalpa, to moderate the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Hey guys, good morning. I know it's heartening for us to listen to our governor here and be assembled for this entire session. So without wasting much time, I would like to request my eminent panelists to join us on the stage. Shri Prashant Prakash ji, founding partner of Axel Partners, chairperson of Vision Group for Startups of Government of Karnataka, advisor for our Honorable Chief Minister. I would request Shri Naresh ji as well, a very renowned architect, somebody who started looking at architect from a more ecosystem friendly perspective. How can we look at that perspective? We have Vinit Bansali, one other senior vice president of an investment firm called Oris, and also an entrepreneur. Have a couple of exits earlier and then getting into startups, getting into mentoring of startups. So it's an honor for me, it's a privilege for having such an eminent panelist, and make sure that how do I engage this next 45 minutes so that it's also an enriching experience for all of us here on the stage, particularly talking about startups, as I said in the morning session, to see how on the earth the startups have got the power or the youth has got the power to disrupt innovative ideas, think of innovative ideas which are actually solving not just national problem, but also the global problem on the environmental side of it. So it's one way a privilege, because having such a dignitaries on the stage, it makes my job very easy, so that as they would be sharing their insights with the decades of experience and then helping us understand how severe the problem is and how easy we can solve it. I think that's what we're going to see the next 45 minutes. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I will also take some questions from audience so that we are all engaged and we all get our queries answered as well. Yeah, I think if we can settle down a bit, then we can start it. It's just about, as I said, half an hour to 45 minutes panel. I understand the youth energy retaining that is not that easy, but we'll try our best. Thanks a lot, Prashant, Naresh and Vinit, for having us, attending this particular program. Prashant, I'll begin with you. I've seen you more as an entrepreneur than an investor, because you've been an entrepreneur and then became an investor. You also had multiple boards in government of Karnataka. How do you see these problems with it? Because Prashant, on the particularly on the waste management, because Bangalore is inherently generating a lot more waste than what we could think of it, or it could be a circular economy, or in the space of EV. You have been an investor yourself, looking at the startups in a much, I would say, bird's view. What would be your message for youth in the audience, as well as some budding entrepreneurs who are there? What are your opportunities, what you see in large, which are unsolved yet? Probably your opening remarks would be of great help for us.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to just draw everybody's attention. I think we're a bit distracted in the audience. We'll try to be interesting in what we talk and try to gain your attention back. CM, I think there is a unique opportunity for our youth, entrepreneurs especially, not only because we are a country that has to meet whatever the 2070 goals in terms of being net zero and so on, but while we do that, we have to develop. So we have a very unique problem compared to the rest of the world, who can just talk about mitigation and some of the other problems. I think during the morning session we heard that there is this jugaad element in what we do. So all those are great, right? But really what we need is put our scientists, our youth, as in our entrepreneurs, to create solutions that get tested in India but can be deployed globally. I don't think most of our solutions can be funded, or the R&D in India cannot be funded just by deploying the solutions in India. I think that's the key thing that I have learned, that you have to make your solutions work for the rest of the world. That's where you can build large outcomes. That's how you can monetize the R&D that we do in this country. So if you look at all large businesses that have been built in India, whether it's in IT or whether it's in pharma, you need to build global businesses. So while we have India as a great test bed across, like you said, waste, water, land reuse, and air, all of these are huge areas. And we can talk more, but in each of these areas, there is a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to build a pilot in India and build for the rest of the world.
What I understand here. So what I understand is we have, our youth and our entrepreneurs should have a mindset of solving local problems, keeping globe in mind, so that
Definitely, yeah.
Our reach is much wider and it's a universal problem.
See, one is the reach. Second, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we can't miss, right?
I think as I've learned it from Prashant himself, he says that every other entrepreneurs are somebody who sees problem as an opportunity. And here we have a big problem, which actually convinces that it's a big opportunity for all of us to get in part of it. So thanks a lot, Prashant, for that opening remark. I would quickly move on to Naresh ji. An architect by and large been sought out and looked up to. I was actually looking at one of his TED Talk this morning when I was being asked to moderate this panel. I was really, really taken back when he spoke in that particular session that many of the architects think that they are supposed to build for buildings and all. But what I understand from his insights was he was telling that an architect job is not just to satisfy the customers or the clients. It's also that he has one other customers, which is our ecology, which is our society. I think once every other architects put this in their mind, because we all know construction generate huge amount of pollutions. It could be air, it could be cement, all of those things. I think with that thought itself is so much enriching, sir, for all of us to know that if each of us start thinking, putting ecology as our prominent customer, then we'll try to bring in solutions. So having said that, sir, you have started way back earlier in the 80s, in the mid-80s, where you have started your own firm. What are the key message what you would like to pass to our youngsters on what should be the environmental solution they should be keeping in mind, particularly in the construction field, which is your domain, and how practically it is possible for all of us to see it's easy for us to build an eco, I would say, friendly buildings and all of it. So we would like to have your thoughts on that, sir.
See, ideally, we shouldn't really be building at all, right? We are, like somebody else pointed out, all this, Ricky, I think, pointed out that all this stuff that we enjoy as a consumption economy comes from the destruction of nature in some way.
Very true.
So, but at the same time, we are human beings. We need shelter. We need a place to work. We need a place to entertain ourselves. What has happened till now in the whole environmental sustainability logic of building is that it's attached to it as a label.
Correct.
Right? So, first of all, there should not be, just like you say, social media. There is no social media. There is media. Media is by inherently social. There's no such word as sustainable development. There's no need to. It is. So what I'm trying to make the point is that sustainability should become a hygiene factor, just like many other minimum things that we take. Right? The door has to be 3 feet wide. So like that, unless you start operating from a mindset that these are the baselines from which we build. We don't build something and attach a label to it later. So saying that, so you have to think from the bottom, not from the top.
So our funda should be very strong before we even think of correcting that later stage.
And then what happens is, then you build in such a way that you mitigate climate change. And you don't just put a Band-Aid on it after you're done. Just by putting 2 solar panels on your roof, does not make you a green warrior.
Very true, sir.
Okay,
very
so
true, yeah.
The phenomenon is actually got a name. It's called greenwashing. Just like we whitewash problems when a big shot comes to the city, there are a lot of organizations are now claiming to their products are green and eco-friendly and all that. This is what is called greenwashing. So you have to be able to look beyond that. And to look beyond that, the message I would give the youngsters is, start looking at your immediate neighborhood, your immediate business circle, your immediate environment, and see what you can do. This word environment, immediately everybody thinks somebody else is going to do it. Right? It's
taken it for granted,
Some
basically.
government will do it, some agency will do it. And it sounds like too big a problem for any individual to tackle. But really speaking, you can make a huge start in just by start in your home. And once you're done with your home, move to your neighborhood, change that neighborhood in some small way. Every single, like Gopalji, I think, said that, if you want to be a patriot, plant a tree. And I'll add one more line for that. He said the best time to plant a tree was yesterday.
Now we are already late. Very true, sir. Thank
CM,
you.
if I may ask him a question. Naresh, see, one is, you have all these highways and we're going to build the largest number of highways in this country, right? So all materials inherently create large emission, whether it's cement or steel or... What is the opportunity for entrepreneurs to create the next generation of these materials from our country, because we are going to be using them the most in the next 10 years. And this is not only for highways, for homes. Don't you think that we have not done enough with our materials?
Yeah, there are indigenous, what I call the field called architecture without architects. The indigenous way of building is inherently sustainable. Right? It's because it was a question of budgets, it was a question of local availability, and fortunately for them, there were no architects around. So there were simple rules which were followed to make this happen. To answer your question, that there is unfortunately no alternative to concrete and steel at this point. Really. I mean, what is available though is using waste, which is otherwise generated, plastic waste, chemical waste, and say, for instance, the Raichur thermal power plant has mountains of slag which are waiting to be reused.
True.
Right? So, but unfortunately, there's not enough, like you pointed out, there's not enough R&D being done on how to bring these materials back into the, what they call the...
Reuse it of it.
The building industry has been following a philosophy called cradle to grave. You pull out something as a baby, make it into something, and then bury it. So you need to create a new philosophy called cradle to cradle, 10 times before it goes into the grave. So it's possible to do it, but you have some examples. For instance, the Bangalore airport. All the roads are made with plastic waste. And it works. All of you have seen that the best roads, unfortunately or fortunately, in Bangalore is inside the airport, not in the city. Right? But why does it work? Because somebody's used their head, used plastic waste cleverly, and made a good quality road there. So this is possible to do.
In fact, actually, one of the startup whom we heard pitching it here yesterday, they have actually come up with an alternative material by using agri waste. Probably I'll make. So this is something which we have seen a lot of disruption. In fact, Nirupa spoke yesterday where they run an accelerator where they have actually found out few startups who are actually using agri waste to produce the building blocks and then see how it can be taken it up. So now it's a matter of time to see how widely we accept that. I think because that's what I'll probably come to the question next time.
If you ask me, the major opportunity in India, and it will become, and it is already legal,
Okay.
is the use of hemp.
Hemp, yeah.
And hempcrete. I mean, I don't know how many of you know. How many of you know there are paintings in India made 3,000 years ago? Does anybody know where it is in the audience? There are 3,000-year-old paintings which looks like they've been painted yesterday. Where is it? Ajanta and Ellora, you're right. Ajanta and Ellora, somebody went and analyzed it. The entire plaster is hempcrete. It's reinfused to the hemp plant. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, it has been banned in India for a long time. But people don't understand that the hemp plant is integral to our culture. And it has been used as both in medicinal as well as in many other applications. And hempcrete has enabled a 3,000-year-old painting to survive. Imagine what it'll do if you mix it with concrete and use it for buildings.
Yeah, I mean, very good, very inciting thoughts.
That's a great opportunity.
Opportunity for us to
There are 3 states in India where growing hemp is legal. Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and I think one more state, Orissa, I think.
Okay.
I think the push should be to, we are trying to tell the
it.
government here also to legalize. Hemp is very different from marijuana. Hemp is only 0.2% of the chemical. It has no danger to any society.
Sure.
No, it's no danger to society as a whole. But as a material, it is the longest natural fiber known to mankind as a plant. So you can even make clothes out of it. Hemp is more comfortable than cotton and linen to wear. Hemp has 20, 30 uses. So as an entrepreneurial mindset, if any of you are interested in investing in a hemp-based product, there are about 30 products which come out of it. Get in touch.
Very interesting, sir. I think we know whom to reach out now. How can we develop a products based on hemp and all? So Vineet, I would come to you. I think again you are also an entrepreneur, got an exits and then came to a VC wearing a VC hat. But more, my question is more from an entrepreneurial perspective today. Yesterday you spoke about, we had a discussion on government is now banning the export of carbon credits and all. So it's a huge opportunities again. So how do we look at this sector to say, hey, what all we can create internally, which can be used by and large by our people, and then think of it outside there. Your thoughts on that, Vinit?
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be on the panel with, really, really senior folks like Naresh and, Prashant here. The question is valid, right? CM, what is happening is for the very first time, at least in my life, I am seeing the government is being ahead of the entrepreneurs in implementing or at least regulating, putting in place regulation to make life easier for people who want to build sustainable businesses, who want to work in the climate tech space. And what's very important is also to put this in another context. I was recently reading an article in The Economist which said, and the traditional narrative in India, everyone knows, right? For the last 20 years, I have heard it, that India is the second most populous country and very quickly will become the most populous country. But that's taking a short-term view. What's very interesting is by 2070, our population growth will actually stabilize. And by 2100, our population growth is going to go down, right? So it's not like we are at 1.3 billion, we'll go to 1.5 and we'll go to 2.5 and 3.5, right? It's actually going to go down once we hit 1.7. Now, this is very important because this is happening because we as a country are developing, right? That is the clearest sign that we are developing if the population growth is going to stabilize. And young entrepreneurs, and I wish I was 20 years old all over again, right? All of us do. The opportunities we now see may not have existed, may not even have been investable 20 years ago. Today, there's a massive tectonic shift in how you are able to take your passion, which is working with the climate, being sustainable, and also building efficient startups out of it, which A, the investors are ready to invest in, and B, you are correctly able to show a use case and a business case and a path to profitability, right? Previously, you had to choose one. Do you want to be an impact startup or do you want to be a profitable business, right? Today, you are in a unique position of, in time where you can do both, and you can do both sitting in India, right? You don't need to be in Europe to do this.
I think that actually takes me a follow-up question to you itself. You've been looking at this from a VC sector as well. Can you just give us a stat on what are the number of startups getting funded, particularly in the environmental focused startups? Because I think Bamboo is one of your funded startup, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So can you just highlight in general, not just Orius from a perspective, but from an investment perspective, how are these startups by and large looking at fundraise and things like that? How easy it is for today?
CM, this is a very tough question for me to answer because I'm not going to be answering for the audience. I'm going to be answering for my senior over here, Prashant, who's got a lot more experience in this.
The reason I asked you is because we also have some audience in the entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs solving it.
Yeah.
And now if at all they get an understanding, hey, this is what it is there, then it's a good way for them.
Fair point. I can give you some insight into this subset that we are looking at in India, right? I can't give you a global perspective yet because a lot of these startups are just starting.
Absolutely.
So this data will come out maybe a year or 2 years from now. But I can very clearly tell you, maybe even a year and a half ago, there was a lot of press, there was a lot of action in Web3, blockchain, crypto. And while that industry has had its own ups and downs, I think sustainability and climate tech as a sector for founders to focus on is inherently sustainable, right? For two reasons. Number one, the problem of climate change is right here, right now. This is not a problem 100 years from now, right? In fact, there was recently a quote in a newspaper from an article in 1913 that spoke about how in 100 years climate change is going to become a problem.
Okay.
Right? Today, no one is writing articles and quotes saying that in 100 years climate change is going to become a problem. Because of this, today we are consistently seeing across the board angel investors, early stage investors, even late stage investors actively scouting the market, wanting to talk to founders who are building some startup in sustainability and the clean tech space.
Yeah, I think that,
Right, it could be circular economy, it could be working towards carbon credit, management. It could be anything to do with eco-friendly practices, eco-friendly products. You now have startups and e-commerce marketplaces, D2C brands such as Beko, which is actually now selling sustainable products for your house. Right? Previously, there wasn't even a destination.
very true. Yeah.
Right? You had to buy the hand wash and then figure out if it was sustainable and eco-friendly.
True.
Today, that is being actively marketed in front, which means the back-end supply chain has been made possible.
Yeah. And also there is enough awareness in the public life where they're actually seeking for some of these products. So thanks for that, Vineet. Prashant, I'll go with you next. So you're on a multiple government bodies. You're a chair for the Vision Group for Startups in Karnataka. I think now we have got a BTS coming up. Is there a specific focus for us to drive this particular session in the BTS this year more on the sustainability and environmental related aspects? And also, government has announced that they have banned the single-use plastics. Do we have an alternatives for it as of now? Because I have been talking to a lot of hoteliers where they say, "Boss, तुमने ban कर दिया, हमको क्या alternative नहीं है." But I'm sure you would have got some sort of ideas which entrepreneurs have pitched to you. Can you just help us understand what are these things which can take it up?
So I'll just a little bit compliment what you said, Vineet. There is a lot of grant funding also available in India, and one option is of course Elevate, of course, Elevate within Karnataka. If there is a tech element to your sustainable startup, so we this year gave away close to 200 grants in Karnataka. Anywhere between 20 to 50 lakhs, if you have a tech angle, and we give priority to sustainable startups in that. So next year, we'll have another call. So take advantage of that. You're in Bangalore, you're in Karnataka. No other state in the world gives away 200 to 250 grants every year, right? This is the only place in the world. The second one is ACT, not the Cable Company Act. So this is an act. This is another initiative, ACT.in. So we keep having different challenges. We had the Clean Air Challenge. So the Clean Air Challenge gave away up to $1 million to 10 startups, which were mitigating, the problems we have in. We have 65% or 70% of all the most polluted cities in the world, right? So more than 50%. So while some of the things we were talking about are for global, the global opportunities, we have to save the health of our own people, right? So it's really important, and it was very interesting. There was no air challenge, air tech challenge, which was done ever in this country, right? And that's the biggest problem we have. So where are we putting our R&D dollars? Where are we putting our emphasis on technology that needs to solve? And so I think it's not just a venture capital problem. I think it's a problem also with focused government initiatives
Interventions on
and
that, yeah.
spending on these kinds of innovations. The third thing is climate tech funds. So we had the first Avishkar just raised the first 200 million climate tech fund this year,
Yeah.
right? So there's across the board great sources. I think, in my opinion, I think our youth, as in our entrepreneurs, are lagging behind. I don't think I think funding is directed. See, we have a unique opportunity also because of what's geopolitically happening in China. Investors don't have an option but to invest in India. And
Yeah, that's a huge opportunity.
it's
actually.
just an
It's a huge,
amazing,
insane opportunity for all of us. to look at
This
that.
is an amazing point in time for our country where globally people want to invest. We have the youth who have the capabilities. It's just our imagination. It's our risk-taking capabilities have to match up to people's willingness to invest in our country. So there is a gap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In sustainability, I think there is more money that wants to come in than there are ideas in this
So the
country.
takeaway here is that there is no dearth of money at all.
There's
It's
no
just
dearth
an
of
entrepreneurs
money.
with an ideas to say how can we take
Yeah,
it up.
it's our entrepreneurs that have to step up.
True.
Right? This is one area where there is that gap. Now, your question was with respect to BTS.
Yeah.
So Bangalore Tech Summit this year is going to be special. It's the 25 years of the Bangalore Tech Summit. It's the only tech summit in the world that has run for 25 years. So again, we are very proud as Bangaloreans to have run something sustainably and consistently for 25 years. And Bangalore, I need to, me and Naresh are great, have great love for the city. We do a lot of things right. We don't get a lot of things right. I don't want to talk about the specifics. But I think one thing which we have always been known for is for a city that has started anything new.
True.
Right? And this year in the Bangalore Tech Summit, we are going to do something which is going to be unique again in this world. Right? We are going to do a startup pledge on the environment.
Oh, that's,
So we will
that's
be-
really,
so-
really amazing.
Yeah, so we will be the first country where we will start startups early in their journey in recognizing the need to be like Naresh said in construction, it's not about just doing a business. You got to build a business sustainably today.
Yeah.
You don't have an option to build a business and build a dirty business today, right? Environmental dirty business. So, and we are going to tailor it for the stage of startup. What works for a unicorn will not work for a seed.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
we have BCG working with us. So, if all your startups should take that pledge. We're going to also recognize startups that do well in adhering to this pledge. So that's going to be very unique and special. The startup pledge, the launching of the startup pledge.
And in fact, one other thing what fascinated us, Prashant, was when we started off thinking of this EYSS program, we said, how can we make startups be part of this? Because I believe it's only two entity which has got, I would say, rocket and bullet trains, which I represent youth and the startups who have that audacity to take problem head on and then change it out. We actually received more than 200 plus applications for this program. It was just, again, we divided into 3 subcategories like ideation, POC and GTM. Very surprising to see the ideation startups going 3 times more than the other 2. So meaning, with all, what it tells is that, to answer your earlier question, now entrepreneurs are gearing up for this. As you rightly remember, for example, agri-tech was not a norm before
Right.
2015. Today, everybody is there. So I'm sure environmental tech or environmental friendly startups is going to be the buzzword after this is what we strongly believe.
There is one question which you asked, which I didn't answer, which was on what are we doing on single-use plastic?
Correct.
Right. Yes, you could say that the government, the government is responsible for driving policy, right? And of course, they should support in whatever funding that needs to mitigate. But again, here, I think there is a market opportunity. So it's our entrepreneurs who need to find alternative materials, right? And it's our industrialists who need to, again, we are always blaming the government for not investing in R&D, right? We are our corporate India is one of the poorest spenders of R&D. So we have an opportunity here where there's a whole new market. So take anything which is bamboo derived. We have as much bamboo in our northeast as most of China has.
Very true. Yes.
Natural bamboo.
Very true.
But there's no bamboo-based industry that has come up in this country. Bamboo-based toilet paper is the largest selling product today in the US.
Correct.
And it is imported only from China. So I could just go on and on. I think in every material we are endowed with natural. So it's not like the battery problem where we don't have lithium, where we don't have a specific material that can help us make batteries here in India. When it comes to some of these sustainable materials, whether it's areca, whether it's bamboo, whether it's bagasse, we have the raw material here.
Very true.
But we have not just built industries that can manufacture them at scale. But it's changing. The plastic trash bags replacement. There is a company in Bangalore that is now setting up almost global scale. It's a brand called EcoSol. It's a brand called EcoSol, which is now going to market plastic reusable trash bags compostable plastic trash bags, which is going to be sold in Costco in the US. It's going to be sold in Target in the US. It's going to be sold almost in every US store, and it's going to come from this city.
Actually, that's interesting startup what you mentioned, Prashant. I think for the better of audience, we all would have had one or the other times the plate in Areca plates and all. Do you know the size of market what they have raised? I don't want to disclose the amount what they raised. They raised significant chunk of double-digit $1 million fund just to make Areca plates, export. They're actually based out in Bangalore, Tumkur nearby. We also have in Shimoga, and we have got umpty number of small people coming and working towards this, and then they have found a market in Western Europe where they're exporting it big time. What we wouldn't have respected, there's a huge opportunity over there. Axel, thankfully, Prashant looked at this opportunity and they've invested them, and now they're all over the places. Thanks a lot, Prashant. Probably I'll come with one question with Nareshji and then probably open up for audience. So Nareshji, we talked so much about how can we build eco-friendly products and all. You have been an architect yourself. You do interact with large enterprise customers as well as the clients, the day-to-day customers, individuals. How is the acceptance from the general public as such? Are they open enough? Because now there is an advancement in tech where not necessarily one has to say, how does the plastic replacement work like? Because we have CAD tools, advanced CAD tools, and who better knows than you, who, if I'm not wrong, you were the first one to use AutoCAD in the country, if I'm not wrong. So now there is a lot more advanced tech. Can we show some aesthetically appearance, the byproducts, and how difficult or easy it is to convince the customers to use eco-friendly products? Is it?
It's not at all difficult.
Okay.
Can I request one small thing from you? Sure. Can we get the lights on? I can't see anybody at all here. It's completely dark. Since we are having an open discussion.
They want to see you, Naresh.
I know, but I think since it'll make it a little more interactive.
Okay.
If you put
some
some lights
ask the organizers just lit up the auditorium, that'd be great.
It's just a black mask there.
It's actually for us. We can't see you guys. That's what Naresh is doing.
I assume that the hall is full of people, but
yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, actually, I'll just reframe that question. It's actually the reverse. People actually demand this.
Asking
now.
for it.
People are asking, saying, when we work with, I work with many large Indian corporates, Indian real estate developers, as well as many multinationals. Now, it is no longer about, the green building is become a hygiene factor. Again, now everybody is asking me to build something called a well building. It has gone to, have you heard of something called a well framework?
No, what would be?
So, this is post-COVID development.
Okay.
That people have recognized that work environments particularly have to be healthy and have to not give you a
chance to just say only green.
No, you can say green forever, but then how do you take it to the next level of health giving? So the word Bangalore has always been described as having a salubrious climate. Many of you have heard this word, but have you ever understood what it means? What does the word salubrious mean? It means health giving. And today, unfortunately, it's not doing that anymore. So I think we have to come to that point which says, how do you make a salubrious building or salubrious environment where actually the building is contributing to increasing your health?
True.
How do you take it to the next level, not just keeping it at the static level? So we are finding that air conditioning technologies, and we have all heard the horror stories during COVID. One of our colleagues in the building industry, one person got COVID in the office. Next day, 73 people got it.
Absolutely.
Because of the air conditioning.
Yeah.
That guy was just breathing and the return air went to,
Everybody
the
else.
entire office went down. So then we started realizing that, we better do something about this. So now you're finding that the air conditioning people are, among all the industries that contribute to carbon emissions, and the single largest one is the air conditioning industry. Right? Unfortunately or fortunately. It's not cement or concrete, it's the air conditioning, which is a huge culprit. So if you find opportunities in which you can mitigate it, reduce it, like for instance, when in a recent project of ours for a major tech major, this is the Wipro Corporation, we built a really large building where 49%, I didn't hit 50, I'm little 1% of the building is not air conditioned.
Very true. And
No lobbies, no Bangalore with the climate like this, to air condition a dining area or a public area is a crime.
Right. Absolutely.
And the 50% of the area, which is the air conditioned area, has openable windows. So if the people inside don't like air conditioning, they can switch it off.
Right.
So we are finding in real usage, something like 70% of the building is running without air conditioning. And there's no problem at all. We've just got used to this. So I asked many HR managers of IT companies, why do you want air conditioning? They know it's a recruitment tool. If we don't have air conditioning, they won't come to work for us. I said, have you ever tried doing the reverse? That you're sitting in a natural environment, and India, the rest of the world has 4 seasons, right? India has 6. Right? Now we have just entered Shravana now, in the middle of Shravana. But Grishma is a season, heat is a season, cold is a season, fall is a season. Why don't you enjoy these seasons instead of living in 23 degrees all the time?
In fact,
I mean, when it's hot, you should enjoy heat. When it's cold, you should enjoy. Like somebody in Denmark once told me, they came cycling to meet me in -2. The weather was -2. So I asked him, don't you feel cold cycling? He's saying climate is appropriate clothing. That's all. So I see, when India, we know how to do it. In summer, we know what to wear. In winter, we know what to wear. In the rainy, why don't you enjoy the seasons rather than trying to modulate the temperature to exactly the same throughout the year? Now, everybody wants to be 23 degrees plus or -1. I think it's ridiculous.
True.
So I have, for instance, just to set an example, I have eliminated AC I have AC in 2 rooms in my office where 30 people sit there. No air conditioner at all at home. There is something called cross ventilation. Most architects have forgotten that they put only one window to save money, I think. You should know how to make the wind blow across. And it's completely possible if you learn to enjoy the differences in seasons and in weathers, it actually makes your life more richer, if you ask me. And enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah, true. When we visit our ancient temples, well, there's no fan, nothing. What cool we actually freeze it out there. We have actually forgotten our history and all. I think, and also during the COVID times, actually a set of business which started saying that you can actually work from eco-friendly offices which are actually open air kind of thing. Much of the resorts actually in Bangalore opened up this facility for entrepreneurs who are fed up sitting in the office. They actually invited them to the resorts and then work outside the ecosystem there. I think that's what we have been talking about.
That's the point I made about the well framework. It's just beginning. So any entrepreneurs in the room, any students looking at it, Google this thing called the well building framework.
Sure.
It's an unusual thing. There's a hell of a lot of opportunities in that, how to change current ways of building. And there are a lot of, business opportunities as well as service opportunities which are coming out of it.
True.
The second part of it, one is, a part of the work I do is buildings. But now my real interest is, okay, let me give you a simple anecdote. today we are sitting in a room like this, right? And we are talking on the fanciest audio system. We have probably the best video projection system sitting here. The auditorium, you could be anywhere in the world right now, right? And the quality of what, if you take our 5-star hotels, if you ignore the large proportion of brown-skinned people, those 5-star hotels are better than anything in the world. So in terms of grade of quality of buildings in India, architectural building has hit a level of 8 to 9 on a scale of 10, if you take a Western benchmark. True. If you take interior design, we have gone to 11 on 10. The interiors of India are better than anything I've seen abroad, right? But if you go to the quality of you just step outside this building, go to the road, go outside, the infrastructure goes to -10. Completely. It's like a sewage flowing in an open ditch. I just saw it when I came in here and I was thinking, Whitefield, tech capital, but there is sewage flowing in the stormwater drain. So I think that unless we make the outdoors of India as good as our indoors, this country will not hit a benchmark. And in that is a giant opportunity, but it comes with a giant danger because you have to deal with government, you have to deal with entrenched mafias who want nothing to change, whether it is I don't know what other word to use other than mafias, because there's a garbage mafia, there's a stormwater drain mafia, for everything there seems to be a little mafia in this city who have inordinate influence over the way, even if we suggest a change, they resist it. And really speaking, we are all now the generation which is going to hang around another 15, 20 years, and hopefully you can pack us off to an old age home. But all of you are young people. It is your country. Pay attention to the external environment. There's no point just having a fancy office and a fancy house. You need to have a fancy footpath. You need to have a fancy public space. You need to have everything outside as better than the inside. If you take that as your benchmark, I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, sir. Thanks a lot for that, because I think it's important for all of us to look at what is around us than just safeguarding our homes, safeguarding our own stuff. So thanks a lot. I think I can go on this panel, but why don't we actually take a question from our entrepreneurs or somebody in the audience? Any questions for our eminent panelists here? Would love to take some more and then see how we can take it up. Can we have a mic over there? Or I can pass it here. Anybody, just raise your hand back and we can pass the mic for you guys. I can see a bit. Yeah. I can see. Anybody want to go next?
Hello.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm audible to you, sir.
Yes, you're audible.
Visible, so no expectations of visibility. Sir, I'm talking about Naresh, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you cannot see me, but try to listen to my voice.
I can see you.
Sir, I'm Dr. Sanjeev Kumar from Department of Management. And most of the times I'm feeling like the words what you are shooting. And it's very fantastic, and it is just giving some instinct in my mind to think about environmental perspectives. But my question is like, all these emotional statements, when there is no motion in that, will it work for the youth? Question number one. Question number two is, how can we understand the ground reality that all the youth are not taking all these statements as their choice for their life, and only by chance we are listening to you, and by chance we are hearing that there is some necessity of doing something betterment to the ecosystem of this India or something. How can we make every youth of this country will make a resolution that developing the ecosystem or environmental friendly nature is a choice for them?
No, I think I understood. So actually, it's easy to point to the youth and I think we should point to the youth. But we should ask our generation, what have we done to make sure this environment that we are leaving for the youth is what it should be. So we have to be role models first. Before we talk of what the youth should do, we should show the way for the youth. And this morning, Gopalji mentioned, in Bangalore city, we have for every 500 people, one tree, right? So there are very simple things you can start with. I mean, everybody in this room, and again, I'm pointing to not the youth, but people of our age, right, have to show that we have done our bit. That's when the youth will understand that it is now their responsibility to leave something behind. It's this whole pay it forward idea. If we don't show them what it means to pay it forward, and we don't pay it forward to them, why will they pay it forward? So I think we should stop putting all the burden on the youth. And I think our generation has to own up to whatever is our responsibility. Like Naresh said, if we have created a mess in the outdoors, we have to first take the lead in fixing that. So, sir, please do your bit, I'll do my bit, and then I'm sure the youth will follow.
To put it in a lighter vein, instead of cutting a birthday cake on your next birthday, plant 10 trees instead. So I can never understand where this birthday cake philosophy came to India, but everywhere I see they're eating maida with sugar. Why do you do that? Plant 10 trees instead. I think the nature will thank you much more than, okay, I have a bit of cake too.
So Naresh sir, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
As you are part of the architecture group.
Yes, sir.
So Bangalore is growing not horizontally but vertically. And when we are doing vertical, we are building lot of high-rise apartments. Now apartment has two parts. One is building, another is landscaping. So whenever we do a construction, or whenever you give the architecture to the designer and the people who wanted to implement, why don't we include the environment type of things where you enjoy a crosswind when it is summer? And also in the landscaping, why exotic plants? Why not native plants? Why not this suggestion is coming from architecture group, which is mandatory for the builders to implement?
It's very difficult to make anything mandatory for any builder, okay? We are only consultants. But I can assure you that in all of my projects, okay, and now I've gone to one level extra. Now, many people ask how much of that land, suppose you had 100 acres and you have to do something, how much of percentage of that land is landscaping, is green area or open area? So I said, let's take it as a challenge. What if you make 120% of the land which was there back into landscape? Take the landscape into the building, on top of the terraces, increase what if the 100 acres was there when you started to build. When you finish building, there should be 120 acres of landscape in the complex. We are going to pull off one project like that for a German company. They love that idea, and I hope it becomes embedded into the system. Two, the second point you raised, saying that how do you make it, how do you tell builders to build? You don't have to. It's automatic. People know, the market instinctively knows which is a good project with good ventilation, with good design, and so on and so forth. And that is why you see some brands of builders are rated much higher than the other. One of my colleagues who's an architect, who's a builder himself, have you seen this company called Total Environment Systems? He's an architect and a good friend of mine. You see the quality of what he does. What you don't realize is, next to a regular builder's building, right next door, he gets 30% more return on investment just by following ecological principles. So it's market driven. It need not be only, from my heart and, for the nation, it's not just patriotism. Ecology actually is a competitive advantage. We have to think differently. How do you use ecological systems and natural systems to gain competitive advantage rather than saying that it reduces what I do? When I first got onto this green building journey, I actually built the first green rated building in India, curiously, for the World Bank in Chennai. I built their headquarters about 20 odd years ago. And I didn't know much about this, but when I started seeing the certification of the Green Board, International Green Building Council, we noticed that we've been following all these principles as indigenous knowledge forever. We don't need a Western group to come and give us any certificate how we are doing as a country. For us, everything is, we are going to become like Singapore, we are going to become like Shanghai. I want to somebody proudly say that I want to be like Bangalore and what it was. And don't accept certificate from any Western or any other culture at what we should be like. And if you follow this one thing that I'm saying, that use ecology and environmental concerns in a business as competitive advantage, not something that you have to follow as compliance. Right now, the mode is compliance. Move from compliance to competitive advantage. You will notice that suddenly business will go crazy. There are many examples in India which have done this. I'm just pointing out one from my field, but you notice that it's coming in every field. The guy who understands this, how to use this cleverly and it's good for the environment, it's good for everybody, and we don't need anybody else telling us whether we are right or wrong. We have our own Griha systems to certify the quality of our buildings. We don't need anyone to give us a label saying you are great guys. I think we should start giving them labels when they don't do things properly. I think it's a time for that to happen.
I think, want to add something? Please go ahead.
No, and it's very important to also recognize this, right? Naresh, you recognized one, right? I mean, earlier this morning, we recognized someone on stage who has actually put in the effort to be a builder, but at the same time, make it being green and eco-friendly as a competitive advantage. We all saw Varun on stage today, right? Actually following what others are only talking about, right? So there isn't one example. There are now more examples. And as long as you keep working with them, and I talk about the startups here, Naresh and Prashant, right? We've got quite a few founders. I met some of them earlier. I mean, some of the ideas that they have come up with, sure, they may need funding, they may need to understand how to market it, but the intrinsic foundational idea is so clear in their head. True. That to me is incredible.
Yeah, I think that is where that's the power of startup ecosystem today, because youngsters are gearing up to the challenge. I think I'll also take one other point, what Vineet mentioned. We should also recognize our own people who are doing good for environment, so that we are actually making them as a models and thereby follow them. And that actually percolates, saying that all of us have to do the same thing, rather than we waiting for somebody else to felicitate somebody who has done it. Rather than let us all talk about our own people, somebody who has planted a tree, let's celebrate it. Somebody who has done something good for carbon reduction, let's celebrate that. Moment when we start doing this, I think the younger generation and the elder generation both, if we start talking about this more and more, I think we will find a solution for ourselves. So with that note, I think in the interest of time, I know I can go on and on, but there is a next program which has been waiting for us. So thanks a lot, Prashant, Vineet and Naresh ji for gracing this occasion.